number 228. So artists do that sometimes if they have a lot of pieces, is they just start numbering them, and that's what Cindy Sherman's done. But this is from her History Portraits series, which included 36 different portraits that she had taken from historical grandmasters. So I'll talk more about that. But the context for this piece, there's a lot of it. It involves, though, first a Bible story of Judith and Holofernes. And Assyrians were laying siege to a little town in modern day Israel, Bethulia. They had cut off the water. And so for 34 days, citizens were without water and they were ready to give up. So a widow named Judith came forward to the men of the town and said, "We can't wait for God to do something. We need to do something ourselves. And in fact, I'll do something." So she was a beautiful woman. She dressed beautifully. She prayed to God and asked him to help her lie. Then she lied to the guards of the enemy camp, who took her to the general Holofernes, and she seduced the general and ended up getting invited back to his tent another night, and she got him drunk, and then she beheaded him. Then for the rest of her life, she lived without getting remarried, I should say, and she distributed her property at the end of her life. So she's a very strong woman from the Bible. And her story, the beheading of Holofernes, has been painted many times. Here it is, Artemisia Gentileschi, a rare female painter from the Renaissance era. It has painted Judith and Holofernes. And this is Judith, and this would be Judith's maid, who also appears in many of the pieces. So to prove that this is a very popular story in art history, here you go, one from the Middle Ages. And this is Artemisia Gentileschi's father who painted this one. And Lucas Cranch the Elder, who is also in our set, he painted this one. And this is a Botticelli piece. And this is in an illuminated manuscript. So the form of our piece, though, is that it's a 7-foot tall photograph. It shows a woman holding a mask-like severed head of a man. She has a knife in her other hand, and the knife is bloody. She is dressed in a red robe, and she is wrapped in green-ish scarves and a blue scarf. And the drapery in the background is kind of this brocaded, sewn material. And her facial expression makes us wonder, what should we speculate about her mental and emotional state? More form, she has a rounded belly and huge feet. So this was a trademark of Cindy Sherman's art for the historical portraits series, is that she used prosthetics, bad wig, and theatrical makeup. So we see her portraits here as made up, intentional. Constructs is a word that is used to describe some of Cindy Sherman's posing, because it's intentionally formed by the artist. And then on the right, this is a Madame Pompadour inspired piece. She was a mistress to Louis XV. Now, content, here we see this is an old master comparison. This is a Botticelli, so there are 3 Botticelli paintings about this topic of Judith and Holofernes. And this is Judith leaving the tent of Holofernes. So we need to ask ourselves what's different and what's similar here. And you see the similarities, right? The clothing, the attire is super similar. The way she's got her head being held is super similar. She's holding the head in her hand, that's similar. Got a knife or a sword in the other hand. So the posing is really similar, but where we vary is in where's the blood? Where's the blood on this sword? There's definitely blood on this implement, but no blood here. She has blood on her robe here. I don't know if this is blood in the background, but definitely on these tools of killing, there's blood here. Then the other difference is, whoa, this Holofernes is kind of good looking here, and this Holofernes is old, shocking face. And so what does that do to the image of Judith? How does this change her when we have blood, when we have this older man being held there? So to answer that question, we might want to look at some context here about Cindy Sherman. Obviously, she is a photographer. She was alive and working, or she lived. Her early formative years were during the feminist movement of the 60s and 70s, and this art, that piece that we have, is from 1990. So in her formative years, she saw the stereotypical images of women. She saw them on TV, movies, photographs, paintings, and she feels like that's material that we see in our daily lives shapes our view of women, our stereotypes of women. So in the History Portraits series, where we have 35 photos, she's focusing on how old masters portray women. And she is the photographer in her work, she does the staging in her work, and she plays the subject. So this is Cindy Sherman here. This is her Untitled piece 224 from 1990. And this is an artist's image that she is acting out. Just like back up here, by the way, this is Cindy Sherman as well. So this painting titled The Sick Bacchus is, maybe you recognize it. You can pause this and give it a guess. The answer is Caravaggio. And here, more context, Cindy Sherman has another piece, Untitled number 223, and that this piece shows us, so that's 224, 223. Okay, just wanted to make sure I didn't say that number twice, sorry. Because of the power of images, she uses advertisement, magazine spreads, pornography, school and society portraits as her layouts. And when she was in Rome, where she did most of these history portrait series, ironically enough, she didn't go to museums, she didn't go to art galleries to get her inspiration. Instead, she looked at what was in books, because she felt that what we see in the everyday world in books, like we're not going to art galleries and museums in Rome, but we are opening up books here in the United States. So she looked at books instead, and she would have seen this Madonna and Child pose in a lot of Renaissance art that she felt idealized women and wasn't a true portrayal of the female body. So here you can see this prosthesis. It's a nursing prosthesis, or it's a breast, but she's showing it to as a nursing tool, if you will. And she's got this, baby doll of a child that she's having nursing her. So it's a different take on Madonna and Child that we should talk about, and whether, how Cindy Sherman is using her feminist thinking and portraying older works of art, or remaking older works of art.